What's up, guys? I'm hoping you all had a great Thanksgiving. I just wanted to have a video real quick to talk about my predictions for the four teams I think are going to make the college football playoff. We got the conference championship games coming up next weekend, so we just had a bunch of chaos this past weekend in college football with number 1 Bama going down, number 2 Miami losing as well. So fun times in college football. Should be some great games next weekend. So ahead of that, I just wanted to kind of give my picks for who I think is going to get in. Let me know what you think in the comments too. If you agree, disagree, if there's anybody you think I left out that you think is going to get in, let me know. Love college football, especially around this time. So with that, let's jump in. So the first team I think that's going to get into the college football playoff is the Clemson Tigers. I think they're going to be ranked number 1. I think when the rankings come out this Tuesday, they'll be ranked number 1. And they're going to face Miami this weekend in the ACC championship game. Whoever wins that game is going to be in. I think Clemson's going to win. They looked fantastic this weekend. I think they're hitting their stride. They might have the best defense in the country. And their offense, even with Deshaun Watson gone, their new quarterback, Kelly Bryant, looks really good. He can hurt you with his arm or his legs. Dabo Swinney's proven to be a great coach. I think Clemson, once again, even without Deshaun Watson, to me, they look like, right now, one of the top teams in the country. I think they're going to beat Miami. Although I might kind of root for Miami just because it would be cool to see them be back. But I just think Clemson's the better team. And I think they're going to prove that next weekend. So I think Clemson gets in. And I think they will be ranked number 1 in the country by the committee. I think the number 2 team in the country is going to be whoever wins the SEC championship game in the Auburn-Georgia rematch. I think it's going to be Auburn. They've looked like probably the best team in the country over the last few weeks. They throttled Georgia. They beat Alabama pretty soundly. It's going to be tough, though, because their top 2 rushers, including probably the best player on their team, Kerryon Johnson, running back, he's been their Mr. Do-It-All this season, and he went down with a devastating injury. I'm pretty sure he's not going to play. And then their second leading rusher, like on the next play, when he came in, he got hurt. So I don't know what their status is going to be as far as running the football. That could be tough. Plus, Georgia's going to be embarrassed from that beatdown they had a couple weeks ago. So Georgia could win that game, and if they do, they're going to get in. But I'm going to go with Auburn. I just think the way they're playing right now, even despite the injuries, they'll find a way to get in. And who knows, maybe if they win, there's a month break between that last game and the playoffs, so maybe that would be enough time for one or maybe even both of those guys to be able to play on New Year's Day. But I'm going to go with Auburn to win that game, and I think that stretch of beating Georgia when they were ranked number 1, and then beating Alabama when they were ranked number 1, and then beating Georgia again when they're ranked probably in the top 5 or 6 would be the most impressive run out of any team in the country. So I think that'd be enough to get them to number 2 SEC champs, and they're the second team I have making the playoff. At number 3, I've got the Oklahoma Sooners. Now you can make an argument that they will be number 1 or number 2 if they beat TCU on Saturday. But I think they'll be in at number 3 just because I think Clemson and Auburn are going to have more impressive resumes. But it really doesn't matter, honestly, as long as you're in, especially with 2 or 3. Because whether you're ranked number 2 or number 3, you're going to play in the same game either way because it's 2 versus 3. And it's probably going to be the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. So whether they were ranked 2nd or 3rd, they would probably still be playing in that game either way. So it really doesn't matter. But I've got Oklahoma in at number 3. I think they're going to beat TCU. I think Baker Mayfield's going to win the Heisman Trophy. Like, if you watched one of my previous videos when I made my Heisman Trophy predictions, you'll see who it is that I picked. But I do think he is going to win the Heisman and go into the playoff. And Oklahoma's another one of those hot teams that is playing really well right now. They're playing their best football this season when it matters, and that makes for real intriguing matchups. Oklahoma's offense is incredible. The concern with them is defense. That would be tough because if they do end up playing Auburn or Georgia, both of those teams have tremendous defenses. And so I think they could not only limit Oklahoma, but then it could be tough for Oklahoma's defense to limit the other team on the other side. So it would definitely make for interesting matchups of strength versus weakness. But Oklahoma's playing great right now. I don't think they're going to have too much of an issue beating TCU to be the third team into the playoff. And my fourth and final team I've gotten in, this is a tough one. Lots of options here, but I personally am going with the Ohio State Buckeyes because I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game. I think they're going to beat them convincingly. And I think even though they have 2 losses, which in the first 3 years of this college football playoff, we've never seen the committee vote in a team with multiple losses into the playoff. It's always either been a team that's undefeated or only has 1 loss. I think that changes this year. I think Ohio State will be the first team with 2 losses to get in. Now, Alabama only has 1 loss, but Alabama really doesn't have that many impressive wins. And Ohio State, if they beat Wisconsin convincingly, even though they'll have 2 losses, they'll have some good wins on their resume, and they'll be a conference champion, which I know is something that seems to matter a lot to the committee. So they'll be a conference champion. They'll have beaten a Wisconsin team that was undefeated. And again, I think they'll beat them soundly. And I think the committee takes into account how well you're playing going into that game. And Ohio State would be playing very well, whereas Bama would have been coming off a tough loss. So I think how you're doing going into it matters. I think Ohio State will be a hot team. I think they're going to get the nod over a 1-loss Alabama, over a Pac-12 champion USC or Stanford. I think they are going to get the call, and that would make for a very intriguing playoff. It would also make for some very mad people, fans around the country, because Ohio State's a polarizing team. You know, if you're not a Buckeye fan, a lot of people can't stand them. They've gotten into the playoff every year so far, I believe. So it would be, or there might have been 1 year they didn't get in, actually. But yeah, I think that Ohio State, if they beat Wisconsin and they beat them well, I think they would deserve that 4th spot. That's who I would vote in, but we will see what happens. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Also, hope you guys enjoy all the great games coming up next weekend. Should be interesting. If things go the way I predicted, we would have the matchups in the playoff would be Ohio State against Clemson, which would be a rematch of last year's semifinal game where Clemson just destroyed Ohio State. So, you know, the Buckeyes would be looking for revenge. That game would probably be played at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. And then the Rose Bowl matchup would be between Auburn and Oklahoma. So, and I believe that would also be a rematch of a bowl game from last year. I think that was the Sugar Bowl game last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, if things go the way I predict, it would be 2 rematches from bowl games last year when Oklahoma beat Auburn pretty soundly. So you'd have 2 teams looking to get revenge from last year. So it would be very interesting, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot still to be determined. The conference championship games next weekend will go a long way in deciding what happens. So we'll see. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. Enjoy the games. See you.